Curriculum 277, Final Presentation, Fallout 3. Fallout 3, an overview. Fallout 3 is a post-apocalyptic open-world role-playing game, released in 2008 and is a first-person shooter game. It is based in Washington, D.C. and the relevant areas to the north and west, referred to commonly as the Capital Wasteland, occurring in year 2777. The remaining survivors of the initial Fallout lived in seal vaults, and this is where most of the game occurs. I chose Fallout 3 as my game because I wanted to pick one that had a meaningful impact on me as a child, and I wanted a game that I remember having a lasting impact on my thought process. Fallout 3 met these criterion and provided a very useful medium for conducting research, as many of the moments in the games were not easy and offered a significant challenge. Also, many of Guy's learning principles could easily be applied to Fallout 3. Pleasantly frustrating. What is it? Pleasantly frustrating is the ability to draw in a player and keep them playing. Even if the game's difficult, the player then finds joy in playing the game, as it's difficult yet rewarding. Most players work better in a game environment with difficult yet achievable goals. And, like Fallout 3, the game should not be too easy, but so difficult that the player is discouraged to continue playing. Guy's principle number 1, pleasantly frustrating. Fallout 3 provides a great medium for presenting a pleasantly frustrating game. The gameplay draws in the player and keeps them playing, as the gameplay is fun yet progressing. When I set the game difficulty to hard, Fallout 3 was challenging yet doable. There were many moments in which I failed, and it is important to note that failure is a necessary component of the learning process in video games. This cyclic thought cycle in gaming is very observable in humans and is often measured in the prefrontal cortex. When humans fail at a task, a natural reaction is disappointment and anger. But good games, like Fallout 3, funnel these emotions and make the user think or play harder to reach their end goal. But an important aspect is that the game still wants to indicate that the main objective is achievable. One of the main enemies in Fallout 3, and a source of all the frustration, were super mutants. There are multiple versions of these enemies, and they each vary in strength. Regular super mutants, the main enemy in the game, were very easy to defeat. They didn't require much skill or thought to take down, just basic aiming and shooting. However, behemoth super mutants were much less intuitive to take down, and this created multiple pleasantly frustrating moments. The strategy was not in rushing these enemies as quick as possible, yet taking time and doing it in a slower fashion, and this turned to make me a much better player overall. In class, pleasantly frustrating does not translate as well, as school doesn't offer as many pleasantly frustrating moments, rather just frustrating. Cycles of expertise. What is it? Cycles of expertise are repeated patterns of learning a sequence and then testing the player on the gained knowledge. It's important in any game because it allows for a unique learning and failure process. It doesn't serve to de-rank the player. Also, it's not obtainable. Rather, it's more involved in the theory of expertise. Guy's principle number 2, cycles of expertise. The best way to get better at a task is to repeat it until no failure occurs, and this is the main idea behind cycles of expertise. It's best implemented in games through bosses and levels. The longer the player practices their skills, the more they will be prepared for the boss fight. When we define what a boss is, it serves to test the player and see if we can apply the learned skills that we've gained in a useful way. Usually, this is much stronger than regular enemies, especially in shooters like Fallout 3, and are sometimes even in their own levels. Fallout 3 uses bosses in a clever way. They're thrown in periodically throughout the game, without much indication that the boss fight is coming, which serves to always keep the player on their toes. Think of it like this. Would you play better knowing that a boss fight was coming or having no knowledge that it was going to occur? This adds extra challenge to an already difficult game, and serves to gain experience from the large battle at the end of the game. The bosses in Fallout 3, as mentioned before, are behemoth super mutants, which are very strong versions of the regular super mutants. You have to face 5 throughout the game to succeed, and I would classify these as bosses. The key difficulty with these enemies is the element of surprise. Usually these huge mutants ambush you despite their large size, and it makes it very difficult to coast throughout the game, as there's always something lurking. This is frustrating, but made me a better player overall, as the only way to succeed at the game was to be on high alert. This is very applicable to real life, such as a math class. There's a series of learning the material, then being tested on it. It's like a video game testing a player's accumulated skills with a boss fight. And, just like a video game, the teacher doesn't give out a test on the first day. Basic lessons are reviewed first, and the material difficulty builds over time. This is similar to video games not introducing bosses right at the beginning. And a final exam is very similar to a final boss fight, and it holds true for Fallout 3, as it tests all the skills the players has built up over the course of playing. Summarizing, Fallout 3 has all the characteristics to be considered a powerful teaching tool. The game is pleasantly frustrating in numerous aspects. There are multiple cycles of expertise, and as a whole, Fallout 3 offers a strong, independent learning way which makes the gamer think in a rewarding way.